A startling development has unfolded in San Salvador and Washington. El Salvador's dictator Nayib Bukele has orchestrated a public relations maneuver aimed at undermining US Senator Van Galland and Kilmargo Garcia. What began as an ostensibly routine diplomatic meeting has become a case study in image manipulation and political spin, exposing the lengths to which authoritarian leaders, in their allies, will go to control the narrative. Senator Van Galland embarked on this trip with a clear objective: to sit down with Kilmargo Garcia, the deported Maryland resident, and affirm his message of solidarity. In a tweet from his official account, Van Galland explained, "My main goal of this trip was to meet with Kilmar tonight. I had that chance. I have called his wife Jennifer to pass along his message of love. I look forward to providing a full update upon my return." His outreach to Jennifer underscored the personal stakes involved. A US senator reaching across borders to support a constituent in legal limbo. Fall. The first image Van Galland released showed a modest conference table. Two simple glasses, one of water, one of coffee, sat between the two men. There was nothing to suggest spectacle or artifice, only the earnest exchange of words in a tropical government office. That straightforward frame set expectations of transparency and restraint. Hours later, El Salvador's dictator Dictator tweeted a dramatically different scene. Himself a miraculously risen from the death camps and torture, now sipping margaritas with Senator Van Holland in the tropical paradise of El Salvador. Accompanying photographs portrayed two tall, salt-rimmed cocktails brimming with ice, tantalizing symbols of leisure rather than a serious political discussion. The gulf between the images was impossible to ignore. "Hey," Senator Van Galland swiftly responded, leveraging a surprising source, a transcript of a White House press exchange in which President Trump was questioned about what the press dubbed "you Margaritate." You. According to Van Galland, as he declaimed he received this transcript detailing how, at his meeting with Garcia, he and Garcia had initially only water and coffee before government staffers deposited two further glasses on the table, each garnished with ice and rimmed in salt or sugar. Van Galland invited observers to play a little Sherlock Holmes. In both the video footage and still images from the start of the meeting, the table was bereft of any glasses, aside from water and coffee. Later frames introduced the margarita-like drinks, but these never bore the telltale gap in liquid level that would indicate a sip had been taken. The rims remained uniformly crusted. No drop of beverage had vanished. In Van Galland's account, this meticulous staging was designed solely to manufacture a misleading soundbite for Dictator's tweet. This episode illuminates a broader pattern of deception. Dictator Boutell's artificial spectacle is eerily mirrored by the tactics of the Trump administration. As Van Galland exposed Boutell's ploy, so too did the White House repurpose its own messaging channels to spin reality. When pressed at the White House about the so-called margaritas, President Barley reportedly went along for the ride, offering no substantive correction. This parallel reveals how both leaders exploit visual propaganda to deflect scrutiny and propagate a tailored storyline. The stakes extend far beyond a misplaced cocktail. At the heart of the dispute lies a Supreme Court ruling in Garcia's favor. A unanimous 9-0 decision affirming his right to due process and counsel before deportation. Boole is fully, or should be fully, aware that El Salvador, as a signatory to international legal conventions, must allow Garcia access to his attorney. Yet the government detained him in conditions some observers have likened to a foreign gulag effectively nullifying those legal guarantees. Meanwhile, the Trump administration has repeatedly misrepresented the case's outcome, with the president asserting that he won that decision 9-0, a direct inversion of the actual verdict. In another instance of narrative control, the official White House account affixed a New York Times headline, transforming a senator meets with wrongly deported Maryland man in El Salvador into a senator meets with deported MISA-13 gang member who's never coming back. That revision casts Garcia as a hardened criminal, yet the administration has provided no credible evidence linking him to Mr. 13. Should such proof exist, it would be easily presented. Its absence suggests that Garcia's portrayal is a manufactured smear. See. Public sentiment is already shifting in response. According to the latest YouGov survey, 46% of Americans strongly oppose and an additional 15% somewhat oppose the mass deportation of immigrants without criminal convictions and the denial of judicial review. Nearly 2/3 of the electorate now stand against a policy that bypasses fundamental legal safeguards. Taken together, these events signal a dangerous convergence of authoritarian practice and executive overreach. In El Salvador, Bauatal dismantles institutional checks to flex unilateral power. In Washington, similar impulses emerge when government officials manipulate facts, distort judicial outcomes, and rewrite credible media reports. The underlying tactic is the same: craft a reality that suits the ruler, then demand acquiescence. Americans today face a critical choice. A critical choice. Will they tolerate governance that sidelines due process, weaponizes misinformation, and rewards manufactured spectacles? Or will they insist on transparency, uphold the rule of law, and resist the drift toward unchecked authority? Or the convergence of Bautal's pro-offensive and the Trump administration's spin campaign offers a clear warning. When leaders act as though they are beyond accountability, democracy itself is imperiled. At this crossroads, the resolve of citizens from every political stripe will determine whether institutional norms endure or erode under the weight of autocratic ambition. The path forward demands vigilance, not only from elected officials, but from every American who values constitutional integrity. Silence, in moments like these, is not neutrality. It is complicity. History has shown that democracies do not collapse overnight. They wither through a series of small concessions, each rationalized until the foundation is too hollow to stand. The distortion of facts, the exploitation of legal loopholes, and the vilification of dissenting voices are not isolated missteps. They are part of a pattern. If left unchallenged, this pattern will calcify into precedent. That is why the responsibility now rests with the public to demand better, not just for themselves, but for future generations who will inherit the consequences of today's decisions. This is not merely about one administration or one foreign leader. It is about the preservation of democratic values in an age increasingly tempted by authoritarian shortcuts. The moment to act is now. Public pressure must become more than a passing outrage. It must be sustained, organized, and unrelenting. That means holding leaders accountable at the ballot box, challenging disinformation wherever it spreads, and defending institutions that are under siege. Humans that are under siege. It means refusing to be pacified by distraction or divided by rhetoric. In the face of orchestrated deceit and strategic silence, civic engagement becomes the most powerful tool left. Whether through protest, petitions, or persistent questioning of those in power, the collective voice of the people must rise above the noise. Because once democratic norms are dismantled, rebuilding them is neither quick nor guaranteed. This is not just a political inflection point, it is a moral one. And history will remember not just what was done by those in office, but what was tolerated by those who watched.